Hey, my name is Antonio Betancourt. I'm the chef owner of 62 Restaurant and Wine Bar here in Salem, Mass. And today we're going to be making truly an iconic Italian dish that's served everywhere in Italy. It's called porchetta. That's kind of the nickname for it. It's actually called porchetta arrosto, which is basically a pork roast that can take on many different forms. Today we're going to be using pork belly stuffed with pork tenderloin, but in many parts of Italy it would actually be the whole pig that's been deboned, skin on, and then stuffed. In different regions of Italy, we'll stuff it with different stuffings. Some will stuff it with sausage. Others will stuff it with just cut pork meat and fruit and other parts of the pig. But that's basically a regional thing based on whether it's in Rome or Umbria or Tuscany. So we have the rosemary chopped right there. We're going to just crush some garlic. What I like to do is just crush the garlic with the side of the knife and then mix it in with the rosemary. What that does is that the garlic is a little bit tricky because it's so wet. It's a little tricky to sprinkle onto the meat as if you're sprinkling salt, but mixing it with the rosemary, which is a lot drier, helps it kind of spread out a little more evenly. It helps you sprinkle it onto the meat a little more easily. And now we'll focus on the meat and season that. So here we have the pork belly. I'm going to season that with a little bit of salt. And the pork belly is always something that's a little bit tricky to sell at the restaurant because people hear the word belly, they kind of get a little bit freaked out just because of the term. But belly is really just, it's the same cut that we get bacon from. You can even see it. You see the streaks of meat. It's essentially, if it were cured, meaning seasoned with salt and brown sugar, and then smoked, that's what we would have in this country as breakfast bacon. In Italy, they would just season it with salt, black pepper, maybe some other spices, and a splash of red wine, and let it cure, let the salt penetrate and kind of dry out the meat, and that would be pancetta, which would be the Italian version of bacon. But basically, there's no reason to fear belly when you see it on the menu. And again, a lot of people freak out, but there is actually a pretty good amount of meat. You can see there is a lot of fat, but the fat will work to our benefit in this particular recipe. But there is actually a lot of meat on a pork belly. So we've just seasoned it with some salt, the rosemary and garlic mixture, and now we're just grating some lemon zest right over the top. So now I'm going to hit it with the fennel pollen. It's actually the pollen that's gathered from the fennel plant. Just going to season that right in there. We'll take this tenderloin and put it right in the middle. See, that side now has nothing on it, so we do need to pay attention to that and season it. You don't want to take a bite of intensely flavored pork belly and then have one shot of meat that's right in the center that's really bland. Make sure you season everything. I'm going to hit it with cracked pepper. On this dish, I like the pepper to be a little bit coarse. Again, the meat is so rich and fatty that it kind of can be a little bit monotonous to your palate, but having that spike of flavor from the pepper or also from the lemon zest really helps kind of keep it alive and keep it awake on your palate. So now we're going to tie it. This is the one thing that people probably fear the most at home. It's pretty simple. I'm going to roll this guy up. We'll take it off the pan too. Give ourselves some space. So we have a roll of butcher's twine right here. I put it in a container like that. That helps keep it, as you're unraveling it, it doesn't fall all over the floor. So we're going to tie it, put the string right under one end. We have this loop to our left alone. And we're tying this guy around it, creating a little lasso. So that allows that knot to slide up and down that first string. Okay, so now we wrap it around our hand, turn it twice, and tie it. So that one's a little bit tricky. So right around your hand to one side, creating kind of like a backwards P. Once more, and then go maybe 2 inches down. And just pull it tight. And just always looks nice if you try to keep that string straight. Just looks professional. It'll impress your friends even more than just doing the porchetta. And then on the end, I do it twice. Just that way, when the meat goes in the oven, the heat of the oven causes the meat to expand so much that it wants to fight against that string. So doing it twice kind of helps keep that knot tight. A little bit of salt on each side. I typically would let this sit for about 10 minutes after seasoning it. I like the salt to actually have a good chance at dissolving and adhering to the meat. Sometimes if you throw this right into the oven, it would have a tendency to just, the salt could just fall off. As you can see, even with the rosemary, it's falling off. So if we just let that sit out for maybe 10 minutes or so, the salt would start dissolving, and that'd create a wet surface for the rosemary and the salt to adhere. Okay, so now the porchetta is completely tied and seasoned on the interior and the exterior, and now we're just going to roast it. So we just put it into any kind of basic pan that you have. Give it a little drizzle of olive oil. That just kind of gets the process going. Plus, I love the flavor of extra virgin olive oil. So now we're just going to put it in the oven for 325, and again, at least 5 to 6 hours before we even start considering it to be close to done. And if it just gets a little too dark, you just cover it with some foil to shield it, but keep it in there at that low temperature. Okay, so here's our porchetta arrosto, gotten so meltingly tender that we probably won't even need a fork with it, but now it's ready to cut. Very important when a roast like this comes out of the oven that you let it rest, because there's so much pressure on the meat from the oven that if we were to just untie the string right away when it came out of the oven, it would probably unravel. But by letting it rest, for 20 to 25 minutes, it will maintain its shape and also helps make sure that the meat remains juicy. Sometimes if you cut it too soon, all that juice kind of runs out onto the plate. That contributes to it being dry. Even if it were something that were medium rare, it would still taste dry. So resting is very, very important. I know by the time it comes out of the oven, we're usually all very impatient, but if you give it just 10 more minutes at least, it'll be well worth it. So now we're just going to slice it. The end piece is a little bit, more well done. And it's all well done. It's all cooked all the way through. But the end pieces are going to be a little bit crispier. That's always a good treat, just to eat that in the kitchen while your guests are out in the dining room waiting for you. But you can see that we have a nice tight spiral. We see all the herbs and the lemon zest and the fennel pollen. And we're going to plate that. And here on a plate we have a fennel gratin that I like to serve with the porchetta. Put a few slices right over the top, like that. Give the plate a little cleanup. And then over the top of the porchetta, I just like to add salsa verde. It's basically like a loose pesto of parsley, shallots, and capers. Again, helps cut through all of the fat. And there you have it, porchetta arrosto.